Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand. Today, my guest is the inaugural WWE NXT Tag Team Champion, Mr. Joel Redman. Joel, how's it going?
Yeah, really good. Not bad. It's raining in England, as you'd expect. It's warm, but it's raining.
It's been raining here all week, nonstop, and today it's actually sunny, so it's really, really hot and muggy.
Yeah. I know you.
So I'm sure you've been asked this question a bunch of times. What made you want to get into professional wrestling?
I don't know really, because I grew up on a farm in Devon. We didn't have a television when I was a kid, so I didn't watch wrestling. I did judo for a long time, and I played rugby, which is big in England. And then I don't know, just my friends wrestled in a hay barn on their farm, and I think I went around there to hang out with them to start wrestling on some hay bales, and because of the judo and stuff, kind of fitted quite well. And they took me to see a live show near where I lived, and that's how I got into wrestling.
At what point did you decide that this was just not something you were going to watch, but you were going to pursue?
I think the minute I started training to be a wrestler, probably I just really enjoyed wrestling. I already did some sort of dramatics and stuff as a kid as well, so it kind of always fitted in. And the wrestling was the perfect fit. So once I started wrestling, I wanted to push it and pursue it.
Where did you start training at?
I kind of there was meant to be a school in my hometown, and the guy who was going to run it pulled out last second. I think when I was 15, I sort of managed it in a way. I used to contact wrestlers and we paid them to come down and teach us stuff on the mats. So we get sort of professionals from England to come down and just show us different bits like holds and reversals. Then I met a professional wrestler there called Phil Powers, and he took me on the holiday camp circuit in England. So I mean, I kind of learned on the job in a way. So I was kind of there refereeing a lot of matches, and before the shows, they'd show me a few bits in the ring. So that's my initial start in pro wrestling. And then I went to a couple of schools. I was trained by a guy called Mark Sloan, who
Mhm.
trained Birchall and some other guys that went on to WWE. So I trained there for a bit, and I trained with a guy called the UK Kid, who was trained by Shawn Michaels. So he trained me for a little bit in England as well.
Was it hard to? I've interviewed a couple of people from England. Was it hard to find a training to begin training? Was it just in certain areas, or was there not really options back
Yeah,
when you
definitely.
started?
When I started, there was like two schools. There was one in Portsmouth, called the FWA Academy, and there was one in Kent called
Mm.
NWA Hammerlock. There might have been one in the north, but I don't remember, to be honest. But I just remember those two in the south of England. And where I live in Devon, even to
Mhm.
get to Portsmouth, it's a 3 hour car journey. So you're looking at doing 6 hour round trip, which is what we did when we
Mhm.
started training. We used to do that, sort of go and learn. But yeah,
How
where I grew up is a very it's right in the south, right in the corner, near Cornwall. So there's nothing around there at all.
So it had to be something that you wanted to pursue to be able to, drive that far. Because I feel like that's a lot of the problem today is a lot of people don't like to put in that work or that effort or make those trips to train. It's almost like they want stuff handed to them instead of
Yeah,
earning
yeah,
it. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, we used to drive 3 hours to get to training, but there was a guy who came from Penzance. Penzance is the Boston of Cornwall, and he'd get a 2 hour train, and then he'd sit in the car for 3 hours. He was doing a 10 hour round journey every Saturday just to learn how to wrestle. But he was doing a lot more than us.
How long did you train for before you started doing your first matches?
Like I said, I was refereeing straight away. I might have done a 6 man tag that summer, um, even though I wasn't ready at all. But first singles match I can remember, I was probably training about a year. Then I had my first singles match, but the match was absolutely horrible. Luckily, there's no footage. It'd be awful, but yeah, I was quite young. I was probably 16 when I had my first match. So in England, we a lot of wrestlers start quite young. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would have been definitely be a young teenager.
How long did you wrestle and travel for before um, you started to pursue WWE?
I mean, I was always going to pursue that. I think everybody does because you grow up watching it as a kid.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's the main thing that you want to do is work for WWE. I mean, I've been wrestling. I got signed when I was 22, maybe. So I've been wrestling about 6 years, sort of around England and around Europe. I was doing a lot of stuff in Germany for WXW, stuff in Ireland too for a company called Irish Vic, which is where Sheamus started. So I've been sort of around Europe a lot. Caught the eyes of one of the scouts in England and went for a tryout. Oops, lost me there. told you, mobile phones. Yeah, and then that was it. I guess by 22. So yeah, that's 6 years I was wrestling before I got signed.
So were they just overseas and then they were scouting, looking for talent, and then they came across you?
So they had a European scout called Drew McDonald, who sadly passed away now, but he was the scout at the time. So he sort of went around and found wrestlers that he thought they might be interested in. And I saw him at like a training thing at some point. I think I was like coaching or doing something there, but he was up in Nottingham. He said that WWE had seen my stuff and they wanted to get in touch with me, and they'd been sort of waiting to speak to me. Just fill in the form online, but it was kind of a done deal if I'd be at a tryout. So my first tryout was in Manchester, the MEN, which was the trial didn't go well at all. They asked me to come back again 6 months later to the O2, and then that tryout went a lot better. It was just sort of tag in, tag out wrestling. Didn't have to plan anything. In England, we don't plan a lot of our matches. I wasn't used to planning stuff, so just getting in there and wrestling people was much easier for me. And that tryout went really well, and that was the one that got me the job.
So how long was it in between that tryout to you started that you got signed?
It took me a while, just a couple of things I had to do in England to get out there. So I got signed the same time as Paige,
Hmm.
but she sort of went out there a lot quicker than me. I think I had to wait about 6 months, 7 months before I moved out to Florida.
Everybody that I've interviewed that's not from the USA says it's a horrible process to come from here to there. There was people that
Yeah, yeah,
it took forever to get paid, and it was just like just with everything
yeah,
transitioning over, it was not a
yeah,
smooth
for sure.
transition.
But I knew Tom Latimer from England anyway because we both worked for All Star Wrestling, so he kind of gave me a lot of the heads up, and I moved into the same complex as him and Conor O'Brien, his tag team partner. So he kind of Tom sort of looked after me and helped me out and told me how to act and what to do when I get there, and who to sort of buddy up with, I guess, and all that kind of stuff that you need to know from someone that's been there for a while.
Hmm.
But he also he sort of told me the deal with it might take a while to get paid. You've got to get your national insurance number and all this kind of stuff. It takes a bit of time. There was a guy called Sam Adonis as well who had just left developmental. But I don't know if we'd met in England, but he definitely knew of me because he'd worked for All Star. And when I got out of there, he kind of helped me set my place up and took me to the furniture shop and we got all our stuff in the house and that kind of stuff too.
What was your initial thoughts of FCW when you got there?
I mean, I loved FCW. I preferred it to NXT. It was just like a sweatbox warehouse. And
Hmm.
it's just that's a real kind of training place. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And if you were lucky, they might open the shutters and let some fresh air in. But that's what training should be. It should be hard.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really liked FCW. And my first day was Bill DeMott's first day as well. So when I got there, he was doing some tryouts maybe, and we had Perry Saturn as the coach for the first week, and that was great because I've watched a lot of his stuff on TV. So I think when you first get there, you're just so starstruck by meeting a lot of these people that you watch growing up, and now they're your coaches.
Hmm. So how was your training there developing? Did they have anything in mind for you?
No, nothing to start with. I mean, I got there with a guy called Martin Stone or Danny Birch. We got
Hmm.
there at the same time. They sort of put us in the beginners class, and they kind of realised that we've been doing it for a while. And then moved us up to the intermediates, which was for me was really lucky because it was Ricky Steamboat's class at the time, so I got to train with him for a long time. So we kind of got bumps up real fast. I think maybe the first weekend or the second weekend we were put on the live show straight away, which might have sort of ruffled a few feathers for some of the other guys, but we'd already wrestled for a while, kind of knew the basics already, and yeah, it was pretty good to get started.
How long were you with FCW before they started transitioning over to NXT?
Good question. I think maybe 9 months. Yeah, something like that, maybe. I mean, I, maybe in a few months after we got there, they started doing the tapings at Full Sail, and then just sort of gradually moved to Orlando.
A lot of people I've talked with had preferred the FCW over NXT. I I was down in Tampa for a little bit. We've crossed paths like
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
ten years ago.
Yeah,
Uh, you came over. I remember you came over to Jason Ayer's house, the referee,
yeah,
and you
yeah, yeah.
tried you
Great guy.
tried you tried cornbread for the first time, and you were not a fan.
I do remember that too. Yeah, yeah. I feel a acquired taste.
um, so, what was the main differences in between FCW and NXT?
For me, I think the main difference is FCW when you get there, there's like 30 other wrestlers.
Hmm.
So you think, well, the chance of me going up to Monday Night Raw is pretty good, because there's only 30 other guys and they're calling up 10 guys a year. Yeah, I've got a pretty good chance of making it. When you go to NXT, you might have 130 people. You kind of go, well, look, the chance of me going up to the main roster is slim. Like it's
Hmm.
a much, much harder fight to get up there. And just the size of it, it's just such a bigger place. I mean, it is great. Don't get me wrong. They've done an amazing job in the performance center, but I kind of like the gritty
Hmm.
warehouse feel. For me, I think I probably enjoy that more.
That was always like what when I think of developmental, it was places like that, like OVW. That's where you learn it's nothing fancy. It's there. You do those armory shows, those high school shows, and
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, everyone puts the ring up too.
hmm
And that was for me, it was good because in England, that's the way anyway. We all put the ring up, we all take it down. But I
hmm
remember a few wrestlers turning up that you're pretty established on the independents. I think they found that kind of weird that they had to suddenly start putting a ring up. But that's what wrestling should be. And again, for me, it was lucky because if something was wrong with the ring, I normally had an idea of how you could correct it. Because I've put rings up and down
hmm
all my wrestling career. 'Cause that's just what we do in England.
hmm Now, when they launched NXT, it seems like they were trying to make, I don't know, a statement, if you will. Like they wanted this to be, it was going to be successful. We're going to sign all these people. We're going to develop. Was it easy to get lost in the shuffle because they had models, football players, people that had no idea about wrestling, and then they had wrestlers, and it seemed like it was easy to get overlooked or overshadowed during
Yeah, of
that time
course.
period. And
Yeah,
there's a
yeah, for
lot of
sure.
people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like for me, my sort of developmental run was outstanding. It went really well. And it was just, a nasty injury. But when I came back from that injury, yeah, it was impossible to get noticed again unless you had the backing of the right people or you had a real outstanding gimmick.
Hmm.
Yeah, difficult to break out.
Whose idea was it to crown you guys the first tag team champions?
I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know. I think Dusty has something to do with putting us together.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was probably down because the Tom Latimer got released and the Ascension were no
Hmm.
more, so there was a space for another team. And I think when you've got Pac under contract, you just got to do something with him because he's just amazing. There's no one like him in the world, and they just wanted to get him on TV quick, and they
Hmm.
needed a English babyface. So there was the spot for me. So we sort of teamed up. And actually, I think my third or fourth professional match was a six-man tag, and I tagged with Pac. So it was quite cool to go back to it again, sort of 7 or 8 years later. Tagging.
For sure.
That was quite neat.
Now, when they crowned you guys, was there any initial plans afterwards, or are they just seeing, you know?
Yeah, yes. I remember having a phone call, asking what tracksuit size we are because they want to bring us up to the road and sort of put us on the main roster. So yeah, I mean it was all sort of green lighted to go on up to the main shows. And, meant to go to WrestleMania that year and do the access. I talked to a few people up there about ideas. And then yeah, it was just maybe a few weeks before WrestleMania, wrestling Bray Wyatt on a house show and landed badly, and my ACL blew in my knee, and that was me gone for 9 months.
Now, when you came back, was there any initial plans, or was it just testing the waters?
When I came back, we did a taping at Full Sail, and I wrestled Marcus Louis, which is one of the French guys, and sort of beat him quite convincingly. And there was a good plan to sort of start getting me back on the shows pretty well and using me pretty well. And they say something went wrong with the cameras on that taping, and it never got aired. There's a few of the matches didn't get aired. It may have just been a bad show. They may not have liked the show and didn't want to put it on TV. I don't know what the reason was, but yeah, the footage never got shown, and from then on it was just kind of just enhancement roles for the wrestlers, like the release.
Did they give you a reason why they released you, or is it just their typical budget cut?
I don't know. I mean, I remember when I went in there, Bill Mott just said, "I don't think you're not gonna mind this news." I think he knew that I was probably ready to go home. I mean, when I moved to Florida, I'd been there about 3 months. My first son was born.
Hmm.
Um, uh, you know, I had a discussion with the mother about moving out to Florida, and she didn't want to do that, which is completely understandable. And I decided to stay in America, not to go back to England, which was fine when you're working the shows and you're doing really well.
Hmm.
But when you're injured and you can't go home for 9 months and you can't wrestle, it really plays on you. sort of mentally. I found it really challenging mentally. I think even when I came back, I wasn't in the right mindset. I had a big sort of metal knee brace on. I
Hmm.
couldn't do leapfrogs, couldn't up and over in the corner and things. You could see it was really frustrating. And I got looked to sort of 130 people and went, I'm not going to get out of here. I'm just going to be stuck here, and I should be at home and probably
Hmm.
having more fun.
So after your release, what was your next move?
I just went back to All Star Wrestling, which is sort of the biggest company in Europe. I mean, the summer we'll do like 10 shows a week, 2 matches per show. So you do 20 matches in a week. So it's just mental. It's not filmed, it's
Hmm.
not on the internet. People don't know about it, but it's just constant work. It's where I really enjoy being. I love doing that kind of stuff. I mean, then I went to All Japan 2019, did a few tours of All Japan as well, which was really good fun. It's nice to go to work in Japan. And then now I'm back in England. I've opened a wrestling school here, where I live in Salisbury, which is sort of near Stonehenge. The wrestling school is going really well, and I've been really enjoying coaching. I've had another son, married, so just enjoying family life and still wrestling shows, but kind of I don't know. I want to. With my first kid, I wasn't around at all when he grew up, so I don't want to make that mistake twice.
Hmm.
I just want to be with my family and watch my kid grow up. If I can coach wrestlers now and sort of stay close to home, that's just better for me.
Absolutely. Was there any when they did the NXT over in England? Was there any conversations between yourself and WWE? No.
No, never, never. Many people have asked me that, and they've said, "Did they contact you about anything to do with NXT UK?" And I never heard anything. I
That's
was told once
insane.
that, yeah, I was told that William Regal wanted to speak to me at one point, and I dropped him an email just before COVID. He sort of get back to me after COVID, which I did, but I never heard anything since. Yeah, it is what it is, but you can't change those things. And yeah, I mean, I know it might be NXT Europe coming up. That's the rumors I've heard. Maybe if that comes up, there could be something there too. But for me now, just seeing my students sort of get tryouts and seeing them make some
Hmm.
good impressions, this NXT Europe will be just as satisfying as if I got a call.
How often do you train at your school?
4 nights a week, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturdays.
And everything with that's going really well?
Yeah, really well. Yeah, really well. It's a really good school, and there's a guy called Niwa who did sort of 3 years in Mexico, and he's just an outstanding wrestler, and he's sort of helping me coach the guys too. But hopefully he'll get sort of tryout soon. Yeah, if any of your listeners are sort of want to look up new wrestlers, then I really urge you to look up a guy called Niwa. He's outstanding. I enjoy his stuff.
If there is any advice you could give to anybody about getting into professional wrestling, what would it be? As honest as you want.
Uh, that's a really tough one. Yeah, just have fun. Never worry too much for wrestling because wrestling's so unreliable. Um,
Hmm.
like I'll get some people come to the school and they're just so headstrong on making it, and everything depends on them being a WWE superstar. And it's just wrestling. There's other things that are more important, like enjoy it and have fun. And if you get there, you get there. If you don't, so what? Just give it a good go.
Hmm.
Most people get so obsessed with it. It's not good. You need to have something outside of wrestling. You need to have
Hmm.
some friends that don't like wrestling. You need to have a girlfriend that doesn't like wrestling. But you need time away from it. You can't just be
I, I agree. Sometimes people forget the journey can be the funnest part rather than the destination at the end there, and then
yeah, definitely.
they miss everything.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're having fun, you wrestle better.
Hmm.
If you can get in the ring and you can be relaxed and you don't put the pressure on yourself, you're always going to wrestle much better.
Where can people reach out to you at?
I'm on Instagram, j.redman87. Joel Redman was like my wrestling name before I went to the States. Um, Oliver Gray was being used at All Star Wrestling. I think it's about to stop being used finally. So maybe 10 years later, they're going to stop using the name. But yeah, j.redman87. I think there's a Joel Redman Facebook page as well. I don't have Twitter. I had it for a while, but
Hmm.
I never get. I hardly even use Instagram. I don't not good on my phone, or I'm not good on social media. So feel free to follow J.Redman87, and most of the posts are probably about the wrestling school. The wrestling school is called All Star Wrestling South. You can find that on Instagram as well.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking time out today, talk a little bit about your career, and I want to say thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do.
Yeah, well, nice to see you again, Brian.
It's nice to
Um,
see you.
yeah, it's been a while, and thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Thank you. If you need me to promote anything, just reach out and I'll help in any way that I can.
Yeah, will do. All the best.
Thank you.